Well, hello there. It's been a little bit of a hot minute. I'm going to be using YouTube to promote my new 8-week free program, which is going to be a hybrid of calisthenics and bodybuilding, which is how I'm currently training at the moment. So I'm going to be running you through the entire workout, start to finish, mobility, warm-ups, cool-downs, everything that I do in that time period. And then after that, who knows? I don't know what I'm going to post on here. Let me know below what you'd like to see, but let's get started in the meantime. So the first thing I'll always do is around 5 minutes on the bike at a medium intensity, nothing too high. I don't want to be overly fatigued before we head into any of the main movements, but I do want to be feeling really nice and warm before we head into the mobility side of things. I also like to start off with a few walking lunges just to really prime the knees and get me ready for my mobility. And when it comes to mobility, I do about 5 to 8 minutes of mobility, and I'll generally choose exercises that reference things that I struggle with. So my hips are really tight and I like to make sure that they're really open and feeling good and smooth before I hit any kind of leg day exercise. Please remember that mobility is not the same as static stretching. Static stretching is when you're holding the exercise for seconds at a time, maybe 10 to 20 seconds, and you're going to want to be doing this at the end of the workout. Mobility is for mobilizing the joints and getting your body primed and ready to lift, and also just open up areas that may be feeling a little bit stiff and too tight. It may be leg day, but we're also going to be using parts of our upper body for some of these lifts, so I do like to do a few upper body exercises as well, just to mobilize the shoulders and anything that may be feeling a little bit tight. At this point, the body should be feeling nice and warm and ready and prepped to lift. I'm also going to be using Ghost Hydration throughout my workout. I actually use this in all of my workouts at the moment because it really helps my mid-workout fatigue, and it also gives me a nice little pump at the same time. Starting off with hamstring curls, this is something fairly new to me, but I've seen some evidence and research that it actually helps with knee pain, because we're going to be going into back squats next. So I'm going to be testing this for the next 8 weeks and see if it really helps with my knee pain. Also notice how I'm leant forward on the hamstring curl. This is to help get a deeper stretch in the hamstrings. The next thing we're going to be going in with is elevated back squats. Now this is to get a really good deep stretch on the quads, and this is also really useful for someone like me that doesn't have very good ankle mobility. So here I'm just showing you that with a thumb and hands distance from the wall, I'm still not able to meet my knee with the wall, and this can be an indication that my ankle mobility is not so great. So if you're able to do this and touch the wall, amazing. If you're not, then ankle mobility is maybe something you need to work on. I also really struggle with back squats because I have long femurs, so generally my body always wants to lean further forward and have more of a hip hinge, which actually targets the glutes more than it does the quads, and I'm trying to target the quads here. So I'm really going to be working on my form over the next 8 weeks and trying to open up my hips more, trying to improve my ankle mobility, and trying to get a deeper squat. So if this means you need to reduce the weight like I just did, then by all means do so. At the end of the day, the most important thing is intensity and execution of the exercise, i.e. form. So if you're not able to complete form and hit the rep range and also hit a high level of intensity, then you just need to drop the weight, and that is point blank period. Our next exercise is leg press, and I could say this is my arch nemesis on the basis that I'm pretty sure this was the exercise that I injured myself on 6 months ago, but it was the execution of the exercise, not the actual exercise itself. So I don't think I was tracking my knees correctly over my toes, which was putting a lot more stress on the groin area than actually on my quads, which ultimately I think led to my injury. So make sure you're tracking your knees over your toes the entirety of these exercises, just to make sure that you're putting emphasis in the right areas. Considering my injury was an adductor based injury, I'm going to be adding in a couple of sets of these a week just to make sure that this area of my body is staying just as strong as everything else that's been built around it. Usually, unfortunately, injuries crop up for multiple different reasons. It can be because of the execution of the exercise, but it also can be the fact that smaller muscle groups that aren't being trained as effectively, that are weaker than major muscle groups, can then be injured in compound movements because they're just not as strong and able to keep up with the rest of the body. Moving into our last exercise, we're going to be doing leg extensions. Now there's tons of setups for this on TikTok and YouTube. Make sure you go and check them out if you're unsure how to set this machine up correctly, because you do want to be avoiding any unnecessary knee pain. A really good mental cue as well that I use is to not think about the knee and the joint moving the weight, but the quads themselves. And sometimes I put my hands on my actual legs to make sure that the mind to muscle connection is really in the right place. To cool down, I'm doing about 5 to 8 minutes of stretch time, and I'm holding each particular stretch stretch for about 30 seconds. If I'm doing one leg, so an isolated exercise, I'll do 2 sets of that on one leg and another 2 sets of that on the other leg. If you're able to do more stretch work at the end of the workout than 5 to 8 minutes, I would highly recommend doing so. Although we have a dedicated stretching day in the week, and we also have mobility and cool downs at the end of our sessions, for calisthenics purposes, you need to be as stretchy and mobile as you possibly can. So the more time that you're able to stretch and practice stretching and get more mobile, the better. For me personally, I've always felt like stretching and mobility is super boring, and for some people it's very enjoyable, for others like me it's just not. And if it's the same for you, it is what it is. It's something that you need to do, and if you've got the discipline to turn up and train every week, then you need to have that discipline for stretching and mobility as well.